Hello and welcome to a truly special episode of the Upside Musings podcast. My name is Oke Ndibe, and I'm delighted to welcome you on behalf of my co host, Emeka Onyagwa. Today, we're going to be digging into a troubling phenomenon, which is not new, but it's uh, ascendant in a way that we find, at least I find, particularly troubling, and that is the appeal to growing appeal to ethnic sentiments in our country. So that's really what we want to dig into in today's episode of the podcast. So Emeka is it's a delight, um, of course, again to have this opportunity to sit together to look at an issue in our often sad and troubling country, Nigeria.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we can do a 20-part series on this if it came down to it.
Yeah.
I was actually having a conversation away from this a little bit. I was just having a conversation with when you have conversations with people in what you would call today, what is called today Europe, and how even that term is very ambiguous.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the people that tend to like that term a little bit away from it tend to be like poorer areas of Europe, but you wouldn't find richer areas of Europe utilizing that term extensively. Germany, France, all these kind of places. You'd find maybe poorer areas, maybe Bulgaria or Romania want to be Europeans when it suits them. The thing about it is, and we could go a lot deeper into it in terms of countries and other places. The thing about it is when you get back to Nigeria, you would think that that is maybe akin to what people think about when they talk about race tribalism. I always just call it racism. I think it's the same thing. But you can stick with the term tribalism to be African Afrocentric.
Well, yeah, I actually, in the Afrocentric spirit, I
Yeah.
avoid using the term tribalism and I say ethnicism,
Mm.
ethnic sentiment. Just because Europeans sort of came to Africa and decided that we were tribes, and they themselves are not tribes, so they're peoples and nations, and they consider their ethnic groups and so on. So I tend to go for ethnicity and ethnocentrism and ethnic sentiment, ethnic jingoism, that sort of thing. But so you and I have been talking for a few days. We typically have very long conversations where we look at events in Nigeria and around the world. You and I talk a lot about American politics. We talk about trends in the world, but major conversations tend to center on Nigeria. And it was sort of, for me, it was dismaying at the moment when Air Peace, which is the particular occasion for this conversation, came up, that Air Peace has started a flight to the UK, to London, Gatwick, and has been able to give Nigerians a break. Something that well-meaning Nigerians across the ethnic divides saw as a wonderful development, um, that challenged the the discrimination against Nigerians and the taking advantage of Nigerians by the major airlines that had enjoyed um, sort of monopolies into Nigeria. Monopolies in the sense that there had not been any Nigerian airline um, in on the action. And here Air Peace gets into it. And on their inaugural flight, they showcase what I thought was a very beautiful tasteful, proud set of uniform for their pilots and their flight crew. And the response from Pat's quarters, and for me, it's important to underscore that it is not a general phenomenon. Unfortunately, those who in Nigeria, some of the least reasonable and rational Nigerians have the highest noise quotient. So they make a lot of noise and they sort of draw the oxygen in the room. They dominate the oxygen. So you get the sense that everybody has gone crazy in this space. But I think that it's calculated elements who are serving a particular agenda. So suddenly Air Peace, whose proprietor and owner, Alina Onyema, is of Igbo ethnicity, was accused of not being national enough, that he was projecting a certain Igbo-ness. And for me, it was just annoying on so many levels, right? It's annoying because, as I said to some of my friends, if the guy had adopted an outfit which was, say, identified as Yoruba, right? Would Yoruba people say, no, 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 it's wrong to do this. You should make it national. So what is really national? Do you understand? So this is, and I think that the best answer about this came, or one of the best answers came from Daddy Freeze, who said, listen, Ali Nonyema is an Igbo man. He's a proprietor, he's a businessman, he's an entrepreneur. He did something really, really remarkable to secure this permit to fly to London. Okay. And he said to people, if you're not happy that he used quote unquote Igbo motif in the uniform for his for his flight crew, if you're a Shekiri or you're a House of Fulfulde or Efik, go start your own airline. Give them, make them uniforms from your ethnicity. But it's such a non-issue, right? That it galls that some idiots will take this and make a lot of hay out of it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so if we go back a little bit, so for those who, if you live in the modern times and you don't really grapple with those issues, yes, Nigeria is a very it's a country that has no, it's a country, but it's not a nation. It has no real identity whatsoever. So like a lot of countries, a lot of places in Europe have gone through. And like you were saying, like, yeah, but people tend to adopt the Afrocentric thing of ethnic groups, which I tend to, for maybe posterity's sake, just say ethnic groups. But the reality is, people always feel like tribe is a diminished term, which maybe some people some people in history have used it as a prerogative, as a pejorative. But the reality is, Europeans themselves have always seen themselves more of tribes, largely. You could broadly say, even when you talk of the widespread Germanic groups as an example, you wouldn't see them, if you go back in even modern history, if you stand in present history, they won't talk about themselves as an ethnic this thing. I'm talking about the Germanic tribes. Pretty much, that's the term they use for themselves. But Africans have taken it like it's an, which is fine. If they want to develop another term, if ethnicity is something that is more palatable for, go ahead, knock yourself out. It's just the premise of it becomes faulty, which a lot of people happen. So that's why I was going back to talk about. If you talk about the Europeans, because we always tend to define ourselves vis-a-vis Europeans. So it's very interesting. Like I say, we could have like a 50-part series and there'll still be enough to talk about. The current, this thing you're talking about is Air Peace we're talking about is Air Peace, and private airline in Nigeria. For some reason, the guy decided to name his airline Air Peace. I've got no idea why. It wouldn't be my preferred name for an airline, top 100. But then again, I don't own the airline either. So he who owns the airline, please name your airline. Would you please? Be honest to do with me. I've used their services. I think 2 years ago, was it 2 years ago? I think 2 years ago, I was in Nigeria and I used the airline and I had this argument with people about the expansion of Air Peace. So if we go to a little bit of a brief history in terms of Nigerian airlines, they tend to do badly by their own fault, by the way. People will always, and I've heard a lot of, oh, is this, they tend to do eventually fizzle out. Some would start off. The last iteration here in America was Arik Air coming from this thing, which they just took off the name of Arik Air at Terminal 4, I think about a year ago. It's not even up to a year, sometime last year. They took it off in JFK Airport because they used to have their own terminal, but they did themselves timing. You'd be supposed to take off today, you end up taking off maybe 3 days time. If you're lucky, sometimes. But I got to
a victim. I was a victim once, and I said, not again.
Yeah. So you have these things where when these airlines, I was having this argument with my friends from secondary school or high school, if you're here in America. And I was telling them, like, look, I get it. People are like, oh, the airline is this, the airline is that, which a number of videos have been made. If you go back, there's a particular YouTuber, Josh Cahill, who termed the airline Air Pieces because of the hospitality he received there. Look, he's entitled to make his videos. He made his videos and all that. And again, it's a private business. The argument is not on this thing. Is a guy that got funds. We'll start from he got funds. I don't know his source of income, or I have an idea. But anyway, he got funds. He has his own airline. He does his own thing, and he's entitled to do his own thing. As far as it's legal, he's entitled to do that. And I was having this argument with people that in terms of the Nigerian airspace, they were the only ones. They are the only ones. At this time, it was 2 years ago. So they've been there, I think, for like 7-8 years now. They were the only ones really investing in their infrastructure, trying to get good planes. A lot of them new, some of them, all that stuff. But they're trying to get good planes. And they were servicing what we in America would call, what we call them again, the smaller airports. They actually have they actually use the same model. Anyway, we in America will call them those hub airports, not even hub, sorry, hub are big ones, but those regional airports. There we go. So we in America will call them regional airports. Like around here in New York, you have Long Island Airport. The big ones are Westchester and Newburgh, which both fly out of the country. Most people wouldn't use that. So he's gone in and he's doing all. And I'm like, look, if you don't have somebody like this, could be anybody, but you don't have somebody like this that is actually trying to make a mark of some sort, similar to the previous one, Arik, but looks like they are trying to improve on the mistakes Arik made, which are very Nigerian liked. And prior to that, it was you had a Bellevue that was trying to do big things, went off a little bit. So Soliso came in with noise, had crashes, and there were ADC Airlines back in the 90s, another crash prone. And then Nigerian Airways that used to move to places and, government management throws it down. The impact of not having these airlines is that it's harder to travel in Nigeria. We haven't even got into the situation of the road networks and every other thing in Nigeria. That's horrible. The security network is just out of this world. But it's a lot harder to travel. And then when you have a few airlines, maybe one or two people who have one airline that has one or two planes, you have a higher cost of travel. So having somebody that is invested in airline business, which is a cutthroat profit business, it really isn't a money minting business. I was arguing it's good, and people, this is like, yeah, this guy is defending this guy because they're all Igbos and they want, there's always that Igbophobia that for some reason has been. I just like, look, maybe you don't get it, but I say all this to say that the importance of the argument that people were having is actually that Air Peace finally has a flight to London. Because even my mother going to London was costing about £2,000 for a 6-hour flight. That's what it was costing. This is something that we had to pay multiple times for my mother to go to London. It's £2,000, not dollars, for a 6-hour flight. a 6-hour flight from. You can get flights from here to uh, Reykjavik in Iceland for 3 something, even 2 something, depends on the time of day. When Wild Air was there, I think I had taken a budget. I jumped on a quick
You mean
flight.
300 and something, right?
Dollars, yeah, not even pounds. It's only something dollars. You're talking of
Because some people might think that when you said three something, it might be 3,000 something.
no. So
I think
you,
you're talking of
you,
300 and something.
come to power. Yeah, you can get on a lucrative route like that. Same thing with going to London on a lucrative line. Virgin Atlantic, you get much cheaper tickets. Nigerians pay a lot more, a lot of the things and all that. But as is with the case in Nigeria, some people, which in this case I really didn't even pay attention much, but people for some reason felt it was the biggest thing, which I'm like, if this is what people are, it's cool to make videos about it and talk about it and talk of the bigger impact. But even when I saw the man in his bunch of his interviews, I think it was finally when he did an interview with he did like maybe his 10th interview, somebody finally asked him about it. Nobody asked him about it on the interviews he did, which I actually support that. I fail to see the point of asking a private guy. It's like you see a man wearing a guy wearing dark shades, or dark sunglasses or dark reading glasses.
And you go to
I
him and say,
start
wow.
asking him why you asking, and it's like, why do you care? like unless you feel it looks, maybe the guy is wearing sunshades indoors and it looks kind of weird. It's not really a sunshade in that you're curious as to why he's wearing this thing. But I always say, what's the nature of our freedom in Nigeria? Is it that somebody can't? I know it's only when it's an Igbo airline, like uh, AZ Airlines, Cabo Air used to be like a pure Northern airline. AZ Airlines, what's the other one that Josh Cahill actually commented and loved their service? I'm trying to remember the name of that airline, but there are a bunch of other airlines that are actually
Local
very
Nigerian Airlines.
local airline. Flies to Kano, Abuja, Kano. I think it
Mm.
has a distance in Lagos. It's not AZ. It's
It's not Shanchangi.
no, this one's we'll use this
Uh,
Chanchangi anymore.
okay. It's,
Chanchangi. This is
yeah,
I remember the name.
there's one. Um,
It's a pure Nigerian airline.
mm,
Totally.
mm.
It's very so anyway, he let me see, Nigerian airline.
It,
He talked out, and
there's United, which is, you know,
United Nigeria is owned by another Igbo dude.
mm,
Um anybody's free to go start their airlines. I'm trying to just because I've brought it up, I'm going to do a quick look. It's not there's Asman Airlines, which is very northern inspired. Cabo Airlines was there. Max Air was that? Yes, Max Air. Yes, Max Air is very Max Air. Yeah, those three are very northern inspired in everything, in their dressings, in the whole thing. I feel to see a problem there. If you want to use the airline, you use the airline. If they offer good services, they
it,
offer good services.
you know,
But to attack an airline as
mhm.
um technically a private airline by that, and they would ask the guy whether he wants to be the national airline, and he's like, a hell no.
Yeah,
He's got to have a private business.
yeah. And of
Look
course,
what it
we
is.
know what happened toward the end of the Buhari administration, that there was a scam around a Nigerian airline, where they apparently went and rented a plane from Ethiopians and painted over the Ethiopian airline thing. And of course, that Nigerians don't get worked up about these acts of corruption, right? But a man starts a business, dresses his crew in a way that is really beautiful. All that struck me, and the whole idea that this is Igbo, really, that's another question. But what I'm saying is that even if it is Igbo, because for me, uh, fashion in Nigeria has been going in all kinds of directions. So there are things that people might think is the way that Northerners dress, and people from all parts of Nigeria now dress that way. Um, um, the southwestern fashion styles have been adopted by other people, Igbo fashion styles, and so on. So there's a lot of there's a lot of if you like, adaptations of fashion styles. There are people who wear the resource control thing, not just people from the Niger Delta, but from all over the place. So, but the point is this. I remember years ago when I published my first novel, Arrows of Rain, and there was this woman. So in my novel, there is a character that I named Sherry. And if everybody would know, who knows me, knows that my wife is named Sherry, right? So it's a joke. I sort of play with my friends. I name characters after my friends, and usually I do the opposite of characters, right? So my wife and I are extremely close, but I create a character named Sherry who is not a very good person in the novel. And so this woman um, reviewed my novel in the Vanguard of Nigeria, and she happened to be close to my mother-in-law. And she read the novel and she thought that my wife and I were fighting, and that's why I did this to her. So one of the questions she asked in the review is, why would Okendibe name a bad character after his wife? And so I got her number from my mother-in-law and I called her and I said, you asked an unintelligent question. I said, when you write a novel, you have the right to name your characters anything you choose. I said, so the answer to your question, why did Okendibe name a character after a bad character after his wife? I said the answer is because he can. So the answer to why Alin Onyema would adopt what I will say that some bad faith actors um, are using to accuse him of setting up an Igbo airline rather than a national airline, which he didn't promise anybody. He set up an Alina Onyema airline. Okay, his operations are operations of Air Peace, owned by Alina Onyema. I'm Igbo, you are Igbo. We have no stake. I don't think if we're buying tickets on that airline, he says, oh, you're an Igbo person, you have a discount, right? We pay the same. All right. So the answer to why Ali Noyema chose the uniform for his crew is because that's his choice and this is his business. You know, and you see the unfortunate thing really, uh, as one has reflected on this whole unnecessary brouhaha, the unfortunate thing is if this guy had put his crew in a get-up, in outfits that are very, very Oyiboish, very British, say, you know. Like nobody will complain. Nobody will say, hey, you should have chosen a Nigerian motif, right? But it's like you can choose uh, those who were complaining, right? And it's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate that a lot of the noisemakers were Yoruba, and everybody knows my wife is Yoruba. Um, but part of what gives me um, relief is that for every idiot who is Yoruba, who made that whole non-issue, tried to make it into an issue, you also found whether it's Pastor Paula Deferasi or Daddy Freeze, and any number of Yoruba people who have issued videos praising uh, Ali Nonyema and Air Peace for what he's done. So it's important that we don't lose sight of this because those who try to divide us always would assume, would give the impression that they speak for their collectivity. They don't speak for Yoruba people, those who made that noise. They don't even speak if they are married. They don't speak for their spouses. They're speaking for themselves. I'm sure some of them have siblings who are ashamed of what they've
Mm.
they've written. And it's important also that people not take the bait, that fools should actually be called out for their foolishness, and sometimes the way to call them out is to ignore them. So that's why when it was all happening, you and I talked about it. Should we weigh in on this? And our initial reaction was, let's let it simmer, let's see where it's going. And I think that where it's going is that more and more people are coming out, or more and more people have come out and really issued stern denunciation of these terrible people. Um, and I think that they are sponsored. I cannot but believe that they are sponsored because the quality of their argument the argument is so jejune, so immature, that ultimately I think that there are interests that are trying to deflect attention from real crisis in Nigeria. And we do know that a recourse to ethnic jingoism, ethnic sentiments, is always the perfect way to get traction when you want to divide a people in order to continue your nefarious agenda, or where you want to pull attention from what the real issues ought to be in our country.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I won't really say they're dividing anybody. I don't think we're together as such, except for being in the states that nobody knows what it means. But I would say they're offering a distraction, which, so the thing is this: it's in this era, and even if you go in the past, in 20, 40, 50, 60, 70 years, but
Mm-hmm.
specifically in this era, you what you have. This is more of, to speak to, is just more of what you're alluding to, actors who want to create distractions.
Mm-hmm.
So in this era, you have, I think there's more than enough evidence to show that you have one political party that trades on that. No matter what they say, left, right, and center, there's one political party that absolutely trades on that, and they've been doing that since they've been in power. That's how they got into power. Jonathan was too Igbo, even though technically he's from Bayelsa, supposed to be Joe.
Yeah.
But Jonathan was too Igbo, too weak, and they've continued on and on and on. The Oyema thing is just different in this regard. A lot of so you have a new aviation minister called Festus Keyamo.
Mm-hmm.
And Festus Keyamo is that kind of person that, if you're looking at him and Oyema, they're probably buddies outside of. Oyema looks like somebody that they look like people that speak to each other regularly,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to the previous person under previous government, where Buhari was. Same people, same ideology, same Igbos are bad people. Just they've done musical chairs. So with Festus Keyamo, he's not that person. He's not going to see. I don't think he can ever have Igbo hate in the system.
Mm-hmm.
He's more in tune, and with some other people, I think that work in fan. A couple of them, like they mentioned their names. They are more in tune with working with Oyema to get things done. Which, in going to these routes, you need your government to be involved. Can't be just a private airline.
Mm-hmm.
So him doing that, right? It is funny. It's like this fight is I'm sure another angle of this fight. This fight is an in-house fight.
Mm-hmm.
This tribal fight. It's really an in-house fight. So you have the people that have always been active. Almost all these people, even some of the ones you've named, are all paid agents of these guys. That's what they do. They have all these guys in their pockets. I've come across these guys in so many ways, and their goal is in different ways to find ways of either being divisive or pouring some wood to the fire to make sure that these parties, the people are bothered about rubbish. I don't even call it divided, just bothered about rubbish. But you could say divided if you want. They're bothered about rubbish. And if you're bothered about rubbish, they can keep power where they want, from Lagos to Abuja. Now, you have a Keyamo and the APC government who are happy to, and Oyema is happy to go on TV and be like, thank Keyama. I think rightfully, I think he really genuinely means it that Keyama really has been always a phone call away, willing to jump on this thing, right? So I think he genuinely means it. He's happy to, and the party is happy to, okay, we won't turn this into, generally, some of them within the party are like, oh, let's turn this into a win-win for us. I think some of them have seen the benefits of that. They still have they didn't deactivate their most rabid supporters. You know, they are still making some noise, ready to ratchet up at any point in time. You know, and you see from their statements, 1 minute they're saying, you know, buy Nigeria. Next minute they're saying they won't wear, one particular person, they say they won't wear Igbo stuff. Anyway, but that's besides the point. So it turns into an in-house thing. They are, my guess is obviously they didn't deactivate their most rabid, crazy, Igbo is bad, everything people. But at the same time, they are willing to go on TV and you know, an AMI is willing to, as a good businessman as he should be. I mean, you need the government of the day. You shouldn't go there and be like, well, you guys stole the elections and you guys, you know, like, hey, you want to do business, you do business. That's the price you pay for doing business in different climates. So he's willing to go on TV and do that. And you'd see even with the party, nowadays they're beginning to learn from Alan Uyema. They are sending some of their more media able or savvy, whatever term you choose to call them, on TV. Because before they were sending a bunch of, there was one lawyer they sent on Yoruba essay, and the man was just, the man to me was a motor packed out. It's no, you know, they send these kind of people on TV. Or they get these ones that, even though they can package things very well, you can see they're very tribal, especially on social media platforms like Twitter, especially. But the party is willing to send some of these guys that give a better face, piggyback off on this Oyema thing. And in addition, you have to remember they came in, the dollar was 5 something, and they floated all their policies. The dollar went up to 2,000 naira, and they've now realized that most of those policies didn't make sense. They're now paying subsidies. Somebody came out with a figure, Aerofy came out with a figure of 6 trillion, according to him. But Bloomberg and co wrote a lovely piece that says Nigeria is burning through its hard foreign reserves, which is that Nigeria, that all the money Nigeria makes every year cannot even service its debts. But they do have hard currency, but they've been injecting it into the currency to bring it down. They've pulled down the naira to about, I think, 1,002, 1,003, depends on where you're changing, 1,100 to $1, by the way, if you're doing on some apps. So that's the dimension they are playing with. I say all this to say, they are trying to play both sides of the distance. The country is in bad shape, terrible shape. To claim Alan Oyema on one side is good, but also to keep your only weapon you have, which is ethnic jingoism or division, on the other side, is also handy. Because according to the Bloomberg article, according to a lot of I think the foreign reserves they've gone through, I think this is April. This is third. I'll be going to 4th week of April. I think they're saying probably by next month, if they don't get some fresh injection from somewhere, they wouldn't be able to. It's a very distant thing. I'll put you up there somewhere. They wouldn't be able to. So this is the background they're playing with. They're doing all these things that are all palliatives that make no sense. Even though they'll sell it like it does. Oh, Dangote was producing. Okay, cool. If he produces, good for them. Still waiting for that. But there's also the economics of Dangote producing. So they're saying all these things. They're doing all these things. The policies they have, and in the background, they are pointing their people to the positions they care about. Right? Solid minerals. People don't know how massive it is. A lot of people have pointed to the economic realities of solid minerals is the reason why a lot of Nigeria is insecure. A lot of people have pointed to that, even though some other people there talk about it as just straight up ethnic cleansing, which I don't even disagree with either of them. If you go to a lot of these places, they talk about ethnic cleansing straight up. I'm like, yeah, but part of that is also an economic calculation. So you have people in solid minerals, you have people in land and housing. This is the one they love the most. They are appointing their people, land and housing, close cronies. They want to get all these things. But in the interim, in the reality, they're playing this game of needing to show like, well, things are working. Like somebody they went on TV, they brought their more media savvy people. Oh yeah, hey, the dollar is the best, the naira is the best performing currency. The only problem is it's still a lot worse than it was.
Yeah.
Even a couple of months ago, it's still a lot worse than it was. So it's this game that they're playing. Again, we can go into, if you want to get bogged down by talking about tribalism in Nigeria, racism, whatever, ethnic jingoism, whichever term you choose to go by. It's something that it's something that is not, I mean, you can do a 50-part series on
Yeah.
how wild
Mhm.
the kind of ideas people have about these things are. So,
Yeah. No, I sort of like where you've taken the conversation, but before I get there, I want to make a point. Um, we travel to Nigeria two, 3 times a year at least. And for me, when I fly within Nigeria, Air Peace is my default airline to fly, just because the places that I go to, it's easiest to get there by Air Peace. And on the flight, I have encountered a lot of their pilots from different parts of Nigeria, especially Yoruba. A lot of their flight attendants chosen from different parts of the country. So that in a lot of ways it's a paradox that some of these mischief makers will choose a man like this one. You see, it's just like I worked for the late MKO Abiola. I worked for the Concord newspaper. You couldn't have met a less tribalized Nigerian. Okay, Abiola wanted the best talent. He didn't ask where you were from. If you were a good reporter, a good writer, Abiola hired you. Okay, um, so that if you came to the Concord, it was a real assemblage of talent from a diverse talent from different parts of Nigeria, right? And it seems to me that at least from my encounters with Air Peace as a passenger, that Ali Nonyama is also that kind of is caught in the Abiola cloth that he says, I want good people to work for me wherever they come from. He's not an ethnic um, somebody who retreats into his ethnic enclave, by any means. The other thing that some of these miscreants who were trying to sow, get people, as you said, people to bother with an inane, inconsequential issue, is that the few times when Nigerians were stranded in areas of conflict, where the Nigerians were besieged, whether it was in South Africa or in the Sudan. Okay? Guess who went and rescued Nigerians? Not the Nigerian government, which is often indifferent, but Ali Nonyema. He will send his aircraft at no cost to the government, at no cost to the Nigerians who were being rescued. And he did not go there and say, I want to bring home only Igbo people who are stranded. He brought home everybody. So people know. Um, so the other point that I want to make is that I really, um, I really don't understand it. This, in a way, I do understand it, but it is still baffling to me. A certain kind of antipathy toward the Igbo and Southeasterners, broadly speaking. right? Because you go to Nigeria, you go to any community, the most remote community in Nigeria, there are Igbo people there. Unfortunately, this tends to draw a certain hostility. What is this stranger doing here? But I also want other Nigerians to understand that ultimately, and I think there are lots of non-Igbo who have made the same point. Ultimately, if we are to achieve a nation, you've rightly said that there is no nation in Nigeria. There's a country. We're not a nation. But if we are to achieve uh, a nation in Nigeria, other ethnic groups better mimic the Igbo. Other ethnic groups better say that there is no part of Nigeria that should be strange to us. So when people say to me that Igbo people go to Kaduna, they go to Lagos, they go to Oyo, and that they are too loud, I say to them, your best revenge is come to Anambra State, go to Ebonyi State, be loud. This is your country, okay? Make it your nation. So in a lot of ways, when Igbo people travel and they invest and they start businesses and they employ people, part of what they're saying is that we are invested. We believe in the possibility of this country. Okay. And to the extent that Nigeria is not working, I like to suggest that it is because other ethnic groups have not begun to follow that example of saying there should be no part of Nigeria that is strange to me. You know, I was born, excuse me, um, so I was born in Yola, for example. My father was a postal clerk in Yola. My mom was a school teacher in Yola. That's where I was born. Before the war, I spoke as good Hausa as I did Igbo, right? It was because of the war, um, and not finding anybody to speak Hausa with. And of course, since after the war, never really living, residing in the north, that I lost the language. But my parents spoke Hausa. My parents had Hausa friends, and I've spoken with admiration, great admiration, about the late Lamido of Adamawa. That when a mob was killing Southerners, it was the late Lamido of Adamawa who saved my father. So these are the Nigerians that I admire. Nigerians who understand that ultimately, part of what I tell my friends, right, is that before you take a position on an issue, right, ask yourself, uh, if you are pronouncing on an issue pertaining to an Igbo person and you are Yoruba and you are taking a particular position, ask yourself, if you were Igbo, would you still take that position? Or if the person you are talking about, the circumstances are the same, but the person you're talking about is Yoruba, would you take the same position? And if you wouldn't, then consider that perhaps your position is not principled, that it is driven by very base, very um, very base principles, very not principles, very base interests, and so on. And the same thing, so it's a challenge for all of us, really. It's a challenge for all of us because our world is vitiated. Our world is devalued when people make a recourse to ethnic sentiments at the first drop of the hat. So sometimes pause, not just sometimes, make it a habit to pause and say, does this really hold up? Or am I speaking and adopting this position because my target is Hausa, or my target is Efik, or my target is Igbo or Yoruba? Let's begin to take positions that are grounded in logic and rationality.
Yeah. Well, the only thing is your assumption is that when people think, oh yeah, they'll be like, I think they'll double down on what they want to do, on what they believe. I think when people refer to Nigeria as a zoo mentality, I think it is the modern day zoo, but it's not unique though. That's people. What people sit down and wonder whether it's nothing unique about any of these things. If you've taken a look at history in the world, that's the way people tend to societies. People, it's a very interesting thing. So by that we get distracted by things. It's we have a society where it's not by mistake. I was actually watching a video where somebody was talking to three girls and what they were asking them what did they want to be. And when I think she said one said she wanted to be a nurse or something, and they said who's that role model. She called a name of a Big Brother Nigeria contestant, Tonani Banjo. Anyway, so it's like that's if you go to Nigeria and you hang around with people like I do because I have younger kids and too, I mean, I'm kind of like that guy anyway. You find how massive Big Brother Nigeria still is. In fact, it's even more massive than any other thing. People know Big Brother Nigeria. People know all the songs that you'll never get to hear. These are the things that move younger people in Nigeria. These are the things that move the society in Nigeria. You want to make money, drive a big car, get a big stomach largely. It's kind of things that it's what moves people. So when you take a look at when you're like, the society is just structured in a way where it's bound to achieve poor results. A bunch of young people don't have any outlet for having a better life outside of finding a way to permanently hop on a plane on a one-way ticket. So you're in this place where it doesn't exist. And all people do is tribal sentiment. I started off by talking about my friends who I've known for almost most of my life. So, going to 40 years, I've known these people. And me trying to explain why Air Peace matters in the space becomes a problem. And now you're looking at me I'm like, bro, I'm not that guy. One, I don't care if you think I'm that guy. I'm not even that guy that I'm that guy that I want Allah to hire all Igbo people. Okay, it's your airline. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, bagam. That's your airline for you. If you hire,
so if he wants to hire all Yoruba people,
go ahead.
okay,
Go ahead.
okay, so
I
basically,
actually support people. Go ahead.
So what you're saying is that it's his business. He should do what the heck he wants.
Do as you want. It's your business. If you look, the fact that you have fewer competitors in Nigeria, I mean, we've seen these stories before in these companies that come up and make, whether it's oil, we've seen it. They come up. Okay, the other day we're talking, right? We're talking about the tomato guy. I'm going to just call the guy tomato guy. So for those who don't know, I think Zudofia, that's the guy's name actually. Eresco Tomatoes, right? So we're talking, right? A young lady who is a blogger, all right, studied law, I believe, or something like that. And I think she's about my age, about 39, 40, right? She's having her fourth child. She blogs. She writes a review on the tomato paste. Okay. She said it's too sugary. Okay. That's her palate. Nobody knew about this thing. Yeah. Nobody cared about it. Nobody cared about it. I watched every time this man went, especially on Arise TV, because they tend to be more entertaining. So sometimes when I was working during that period, listening to them go on Arise TV, sue them, drag them up and down. They called this. That was how the whole thing blew up. Arrested her, made her even bring senators to sign, all that. It blew up so much. I think it even made New York Times or Bloomberg or something. It's
like CNN, it was on the BBC, it was on Indian television.
Yeah. You call me and ask me, I'm like, okay, how do you define, you have to define what freedom is in Nigeria, because people make all kinds of videos. And even when the man was defending his product, which I'm getting to this, why I'm bringing up this story, even when he was defending his product, he himself said he has the ones that they push sugar inside. So wouldn't it have been better to have constructive criticism and be like, well, maybe we didn't point out to you that we have the ones that have less sugar inside. Air Peace, as an example, I'm coming to this thing. Air Peace is an example. Man, I can give you plenty of videos of people that are critical of airlines, and these people that are critical, Noah Phillips, that travels all around. He's English from I think I can't remember exactly where in England. He's moved to Texas now. He too was in Nigeria. They all went to use Air Peace, as in when they go in, they fly like from Lagos to Abuja, to Lagos to Port Harcourt, Abuja. They take like 2 or 3 flights and review the airlines, review everything, review. Noah Phillips has has a low review. Air Peace was bashed. Noah Phillips is more of a polite person. Josh Cahill, who, the air hostess on I think it's AZ Airlines, loved him and all that. She has her own YouTube channel. I took a look at it. I just thought I watched this thing, and I felt, because a lot of my friends were scattering Air Peace, and I was trying to tell them, look, at that time, this Air Peace were they're never on time, they delay, blah blah blah, all that. And I was trying to tell them that you have two entities, or maybe 3, United Nigeria, I don't know how they are doing, but Ibom Air and Air Peace, that are trying to be fresh in the airline industry in Nigeria. And almost every other form of transport in Nigeria now is like, it's like scary. So at the point I'm bringing up is, you see people who can go on and defend themselves, right? So if you have Air Peace, for instance, Alan Yema himself is his own defense system. The biggest problem all this that guy had is that even his what they call him, even his PRO is like from his village. The tomato guy, his PRO is from his village. He had this very, what do you want to call the pejorative Manibo person? So I can say this Ibotic outlook. When you don't take crisis communication seriously, David Hunde had a huge post about it. Well, I'm like, yeah, this guy said it very well. I walked in, I served in the US military, embedded with units. Large part of my job was communications, public affairs. People don't understand how much you have to handle these things, how you have to handle them when you do something and when you don't. So I'm using as an example, if you go to your village and call all your umuna to run a business, you will end up on the front page of New York Times as a tomato guy. This passion tomato. Tomato,
Because all they will tell you is, let's call the commissioner of police. Let's arrest this woman. A woman who maybe had been read by at most 200 people, the entire millions of people now have heard the story. And I don't think it's going to do the man any favors in his business, just from the point of view that you arrest a pregnant woman, okay? And you make it so you could have charged her with, you could have filed a civil lawsuit, right? In which case she didn't have to be arrested. You could charge her with defamation of your product if a product is defamable.
Is it worth it? You know what Air Peace did on their this that people around the world saw. They got Girls Trip. I was impressed. Like I've come up with a lot of campaigns. They got Girls Trip. I thought, because they had like Wode Maya come to Alan Yema's office, other people. This was like 2 years ago. Wode Maya was in Nigeria 2-3 years ago during the pandemic. He was there for like 5 months. He came, but on their inaugural flight, they had I think Omoni Oboli, Uche Jumbo, Ufoma Demont, and who was the last person? They had these 4 ladies. And all these ladies each person has like 2 million followers at minimum. I think some of them have like as much as 5-6 million followers on Instagram and other platforms. Just on Instagram alone, I think combined they probably have probably over 15 million, somewhere around their followers, right? They had a huge, massive campaign, Girls Trip, tweeting out. In fact, at this point in time, anybody that heard of Air Peace and their London flight, well, 2 things you'd hear about: people complaining about this thing, but you hear they were serving Nigerian food. And why? Because a lot of these, that's how you run a business. Short of that, you can redefine what freedom is in Nigeria. That's fine. There are countries where you can't do that. You can't go to parts of Saudi Arabia and do that, right? Okay, cool. That's what you want. Then set the rules that way. Let everybody know. If you are bold enough to start talking about sugar inside tomato paste, then they'll carry a nice this maybe cut off your hand or something. I don't know. Yeah, so we all know, like, please, If you don't like sugar in your tomato paste, just enjoy it while you're there. Kind of, so it is just, and that's why I said, to me, I'm like, hire who you want. I don't care. Like, I heard people talk about what happened in London, how they're frustrating them in London. Somebody was talking about, people have made videos about it, which is more pertinent to the issue. And what was more pertinent is that even Alan Oyema's daughter was in London handling logistics. That's what I heard, right? That's what people made videos that daughter, they were, because what the British authorities did to them, Gatwick Airport, all that stuff, is a whole different conversation, right? Somebody said even Alan Oyema's daughter offered to pay for the excess luggage because she wasn't supposed to have $150 that she brought out the money from her pocket to pay for the excess luggage of this thing and all that. So those are the more, people have. You want to hire your family, if they do the job well, then it's a good job. If they don't, so be it. But it's your business. As you run it, it's left for you.
No, I mean, I guess the point that we've been making boils down to this: that we have a country where a lot of people, a lot of Nigerians are extremely quiet, silent when those who run the public trust, in other words, governors, commissioners, president in the country, members of the National Assembly, mismanage the country, loot the resources of the country. Now, these are resources that belong to all of us. So every Nigerian has a stake in that matter. But we could see the current president, awarding no bid contracts to Shaguri, his friend. We shut up. Yeah, that's fine. He has power. But then a man starts his own airline. And that's why you start making noise, right? That you didn't sow you didn't give the uniform to your crew that suits into my ethnic preference. Okay, so I'm going to make noise. I'm going to tell you that you have no right to do that. But people who are mismanaging our resources, embezzling our funds, we look at them and say, oh, yeah, God has blessed them. So I sort of don't understand that. And there's a sort of, interestingly, I was in upstate New York last week. I went to give a talk on my work, on my novel, to a group of students who had read my second novel, Foreign Gods Inc. And one of the questions that student asked me, they had read Cockroaches, which is a memoir by a Rwandan survivor of the Rwandan genocide. Which, by the way, this is the 30th anniversary of that whole horrific event. So this student said to me that Rwanda's response to that tragedy is to say, in a sense, we're going to abolish ethnicity. So in Rwanda, you can no longer identify yourself as Hutu or Tutsi. Okay, you're just Rwandan. And so this person said to me, having read my novel and having read some of my columns and so on, where I talk about some of the pathologies in Nigeria. So the question was, would I support a movement, a kind of abolition, formal legislative abolition of ethnic groupings in Nigeria, so that Nigerians are just Nigerians? So I said no. I said to this person that ethnicity need not be and is not innately and inherently negative. I said there is something beautiful about any culture. And when you belong to a culture, the language you speak, the memory of the culture, their cultural practices, and so on. I said those are beautiful things that should be celebrated. The issue and the problem is when people begin to engage in ethnic um, triumphalism, so that my ethnicity now becomes superior to yours, or I see you as less than human because you don't speak my language, and so on. But so anyway, so I told this person that I don't believe in the abolition of ethnicity, and at any rate, that I come from a country where if I tell most Nigerians that my name is okay, they know that I'm Igbo. So I say, unless we are now going to adopt Oyibo names and start saying, my name is John Smith. So that's,
Mhm.
so I said, otherwise it doesn't work. So as I said, I was born in Yola, in America. Um, if I had lived um, if I had been born in any state in this country, right, regardless of where my father came from, um, in fact, regardless of whether I was born in the state, if I move to the state and I establish residency, I can actually run for any public office in that state. But can you imagine that if I had lived in Yola all my life, let's say the war had not happened and therefore I had not moved, if I came out to run for a state assembly office, people would say, hey, go to Anambra. It doesn't matter whether I've ever been to Anambra, whether I spoke Igbo and so on. So the thing is, the question ultimately is, have we agreed? Is there any um, consensus in Nigeria? Any um, will, as it were, that we want to stay together? We want to remain together as a people. And I think we have not settled that question at all. We haven't even begun to discuss it in a serious way, which is why I'm sure that you followed this woman who declared that the Yoruba people want an Oduduwa republic, and then she was denounced by some people, and it became a conversation. And the fact that, which is a topic that we need to actually devote one day to, but the fact that Nnamdi Kanu still languages in detention today is is it's illogical. You know, it's illogical. It should not be a crime for somebody to say, "I want out of Nigeria," because the truth is that Nigeria doesn't want much of Nigeria in. Nigeria doesn't behave like a country that wants its constituent members to feel like they belong to this shared community.
Yeah, yeah. It's it's a very interesting thing, man. It's a very interesting thing. I think Nigeria is just at that stage where some places have been in. I don't. It could go one way or the next. Who knows? The only thing I would always say, I think the example you brought up was a very good one in terms of Rwanda, in terms of Paul Kagame's approach, which on the surface, it's eventually to have his own, they'll need some level of recoil.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing it does is actually abolish exactly what you were talking about in terms of running. So Nigeria has a federal character, federal quota, affirmative action,
Mm-hmm.
whichever term you choose to call it, right? It is the same thing, exactly the same thing. There's no difference. Affirmative action, positive discrimination in India.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's called. And we have a quota system that came about from the Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
We went the opposite direction, right? Even though Kagame is saying no tribes and all that, the effect of saying no tribes is saying no federal character, no, and I would support that. Just not to say, hey, you can't be your ethnic group or tribe or whatever you are, but support the fact that you abolish all these federal character things. I think is the worst thing that I was talking to, we had these forums on back on all this I think Twitter Spaces, or maybe last year or the year before. When I was talking, his grandfather said that Igbos were dominating everything, and I'm like, okay, what do you mean by define everything? What and what? Like, yeah, they were controlling the airports, they're controlling this, they were. I said, the problem you keep missing, and people always miss, not everybody, but most people, especially in Nigeria, miss with this silliness of not knowing what you want to be as a country. And then you keep on with this federal character to say, yeah, you're keeping it together by force. Is that you're not letting things develop. You can't sit down and say you're going to have federal character for it doesn't work. Some people will be better than others in other things. That's life. And if people are not, I'm looking at, because that guy is probably even younger than me, so maybe even in his 20s. And it's like, if at this stage, you don't your parents have taught you this and you told it as, yeah, this makes sense. Like, nah, it doesn't make sense. You need to think beyond that. You have it when you have a system where you have to quoterize the system, which is what's happening in a lot of Western countries. They want to quoterize things. All you end up is with mediocrity. You don't need to quoterize anything. You're going to have national teams that will be, if you have a female national team, they will all be from the South, generally. Most of them will not pass Kogi. Igala people. But it's just what it is. And it's also genetic, actually. Because once you start growing up, not genetically, they are more adapted to longer. So with most of the, man, it's a fantastic book I read way back, and the guy said, yeah, the biggest sports gene is the name of the book. I think it's David Remnick. I think Sports Gene, phenomenal book. The science book, science based, and he talks about it that most research on the field, I sent you a video about research and stuff like that. Most research on the field, people don't do it because you'll be called racist. Certain people are adapted to certain things. White people have, well, let me not say white people. Some white people from certain places tend to have lighter bones. So some are better suited to swimming. But people always assume that all black people are not suited to swimming. It's not true. Most black people are not necessarily, because of a lot of black ethnic groups have denser bones. But these are just the point is, it doesn't mean one person is stupid or this is the problem we have. We're saying in America and all these places. Oh, when you go and you walk in somewhere and you don't see, some people walking somewhere, they don't see a black person, then it must be racism. And people ask, we all ask, okay, NFL is what, 70% black that plays it? That no, it's black excellence. It's that concocted us because they're now free to play. It's all, when you have a free system, you would start having products that will be great. NFL is great. Why? Because it's a free system. And what happens in a free system? People, you want to run a business and you care about your business, you're looking for, you definitely want to try and help your relatives and so on. But if they're not living up to the responsibilities and you like your business and you want to grow,
they're out.
And there are other things to do.
And philanthropy to them, but you're not going to make a relative the man handling your media affairs.
Exactly. Yeah. If you value your business, if you value your communication, and that's the thing about these things that people don't understand, is that that's why it's very much you need a freer country, and in a freer country, some people will dominate some things, others will dominate other things. Doesn't mean anybody's smarter than the other person or anybody's stupid. No, or somebody's weaker. That West Africans closer to the coastline have the ability for shorter bursts. So that's why you have these Caribbean islands, and the West Africans are good at certain sports, like sprinting and other things. It doesn't mean that those that are not are weak. It just means you're better suited to other things. And if you've had
like Kenyans, Ethiopians, long distance races,
It doesn't mean that the fact that I don't have the capacity to beat Kenyans consistent, no matter how hard I train consistently long distance running, doesn't mean I'm weak. Just means my my distance is just different from theirs. Uh, I could train. I'll have to train maybe 50 times harder than them to compete with them. You know, it is, but we are not there, and we are in a country where, especially when it comes to Igbos, if you smile too much, they say you have an Igbo smile. So people start this. It's like, yeah, Igbos took over, and they have, and you encounter people who have within Nigeria who are still taught a lot of these things, a lot of misinformation about how things have progressed, how the Civil War progressed, why Nnamdi, all these kind of things. But anyway, that's just that. Would have to,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
talking about the deflection of these unwarranted and just mischievous um, attacks on Air Peace, which became a way of attacking a broader ethnicity. I'm talking about the fact that for all the resources that are poured into bringing, shoring up the naira, from close to 2000 to now, maybe close to 1,100, 1,200. The fact is that Nigeria, almost on a daily basis, uh, is shows signs of crashing. You know, just recently there was the fifth total collapse of the national grid. Guys, what that meant was that there have been 5 times this year, okay, and we're only in the fourth month of the year. There are already 5 times when Nigeria's electricity generation was zero. In other words, an entire nation was plunged into darkness. I want people to sort of reckon with the seriousness of that. The fact that Nigeria still mucks around generating less than 3,000 megawatts of power. Less than 3,000 consistently. 2,000 something on the best days. And this year there have been 5 occasions when it bottomed out at zero. Zero. There can be no better index of failure and of disaster, because at zero, it means that consider all the people who have no access to private generators, all the food that they have in their refrigerator is going to go bad. Okay? Consider the state of hospitals where complex procedures have to happen. Okay? Then consider businesses that the residual manufacturing businesses in Nigeria, or even service businesses that nevertheless need power in order to process so much. So you have a problem that is spiraling into the area of disaster. Unemployment is off the charts in Nigeria. I have a relative who studied engineering in a university, was looking for a job for a long time. And he called me 2 weeks ago, was able to get a job in a state government, and he was placed on level 4. his salary, he told me what he was paid into his account was 29,000 naira. That's a month's salary. This is a graduate of engineering, you know? So these are the problems that we ought to be talking about in our country. These are real problems. These are life and death problems. These are problems that bear on the ability of people to eat, their ability to move around, their ability to learn, their ability to be treated in hospitals, the ability of businesses to operate. So these are not insignificant problems. And yet you see very little alarm being sounded about the scale, the scope, the depth of of this crisis in our country.
Yeah. It's
And of
what's
course,
yeah.
you brought to my attention the sharp, dramatic rise in tariffs,
Yeah.
and so on. So,
Yeah. The electricity thing, man. We're supposed to delve into it today. Um, it's a lot deeper in terms of what's happening and tariffs. But what I'll propose is we should make it part two and then just delve into it with that because that's something that we'll probably just put it back to back with this one and just delve into it. It'll be a lot easier. But it is because I was looking at it and I'm like, yeah, this is a lot more
mhm,
problematic in so many ways.
mhm,
Um, National grid falling, tariff prices are going up. They removed the subsidies.
mhm,
People are. I mean, you're talking of just not even having, even when you have the cost of paying for electricity alone now is gone up. So anyway, I think we should just probably we'll probably release this with that one as well and just put them back to back.
mhm.
Because we need to spend a little bit of time talking about the details about this stuff. It is wild. It is scary, but yeah. Yeah.
So when do you want us to record that?
We could do it like on Thursday. Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
So let's round up
All right.
then. Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, so um, it's always a delight to have our faithful listeners and followers, and it gives us great joy. Part of what we try to do in every episode is that to bring illumination, hopefully, to ask questions. Um, and we're open, by the way. We like to hear from you. So we like to hear responses to our podcasts. We like to get ideas for issues that we should look at. So we thank you very, very much for joining us. And Mecca is always a delight.
Same here. Same here. Appreciate that. All right.
All right.
Till next one.
Good
All right.
night.
Night.